Today we're going to be talking about a lot of the supposed leaks for Marvel Phase 4. So what I'm going to tell you right now is take them with a grain of salt. All of these seem to confirm a lot of fan theories and stuff like that, which makes the leaks very subject. Also, other than being from supposed sources that are very reliable from previous leaks, we have no sources. We have no one knowing where they came from. They just kind of appeared, which happens quite often when we're talking about leaks. What I want to do is go through two of the more popular leak compilations that I have found on Reddit and basically confirm or deny my thoughts on them and what these would work with. But before we can start that up, I want to tell you the first of the leaks, Thor is going to get his hammer back. Meow meow the hammer. You're just like, put me down. What do you do? I want to play. All right, so in all seriousness, guys, this is going to be us discussing some of the more popular rumors and leaks that I've seen. Keep in mind real quick, leaks are just that. They're from supposed sources that have information, but they're very easy to falsify and fake and things like that. The only reason that these seem to have any credibility behind them is they're from sources who have been reliable in the past, leaking things for like Endgame and stuff like that. So, that being said, we're going to go through these together as a little bit of a group. Less of a rant, more of a discussion from Benny telling you about the Phase 4 rumors. Now, I pulled down the images from one of the Reddits this morning. Now, in the time it took me to get this image this morning, which was posted on May 27th on the Marvel Studios Reddit, it was also deleted and completely removed. Now, to me, that gives a little credibility to at least something in here, but you don't know. So supposedly these are leaked by @Roger Wardell. He's the individual that apparently leaked in a lot of stuff that was true about Endgame. And he is claiming that the next movies are going to be Black Widow, The Eternals, Black Panther 2, Shang-Chi, Doctor Strange 2, Nova, Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Captain Marvel 2, and Ant-Man 3. That is apparently Phase 4 of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Now, the other one I have has actually titles to go with these, and we'll talk about that in a minute. He also states that Thor 4 is going to happen, which is also on the other list as well. He's also stating that Marvel is planning on making the New Avengers, the Young Avengers, and the Dark Avengers. Now, quick rundown of the New Avengers, Young Avengers, and Dark Avengers. Typically in Marvel comic books, the New Avengers is created once your classic team is kind of done. A lot of times, so you guys know the traditional Justice League that has pretty much been the Justice League since the 2000s. The Avengers play a little differently. They create the team fights something massive, and then they hold on to one or two members while they rotate out most of the roster. What traditionally these teams were used for is a way to boost up characters you may not be aware of or are having pretty bad runs themselves. So typically when they make New Avengers, you'll start to see characters that you may know of, but you haven't been reading their book. So taking in for what we have with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, what we're probably going to have is Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man, you know them, but we're going to be introduced to Shang-Chi and characters like that are going to be introduced into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. The Young Avengers is typically treated to be a younger group of Avengers. It says it kind of in the name. And by having characters like Stature, Ant-Man's daughter, and stuff like that already available, there is a potential to have the Young Avengers. If we spend the next couple of movies introducing some younger heroes into the mix, maybe even going into Tony Stark's daughter becoming the new Iron Man in a pseudo-Riri kind of situation, it could all be very interesting. So the Young Avengers has basically typically been Marvel's answer to the Teen Titans. So seeing that in live screen would be amazing. Now the Dark Avengers, cool name. The Dark Avengers is interesting based upon the leaks that I have on the other thing. The Dark Avengers is not actually an Avenger team. So in comic books, there is a period in which the Avengers go missing. Norman Osborn takes, no, they don't go missing. I apologize for that. The Avengers are around. Norman Osborn takes credit for winning the Secret Invasion. Basically, he sent Deadpool up there, Deadpool did a bunch of things, and Norman Osborn took credit for basically completing the Secret Invasion situation, which then got him elected to a position of power, and he created the Dark Avengers. The Dark Avengers were villains pretending to be heroes. They had like a version of Spider-Man, but it was actually the symbiote at the time, and it was, I believe off the top of my head, Mac Gargan. You had Daken pretending to be Wolverine. So you had villains pretending to be superheroes so that they could be like a black ops group for Norman Osborn. So that's what the Dark Avengers are, and we'll talk more about why that plays into the other rumor list in a minute. Moving down this list, it states that there are no plans for the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. Marvel has actually come out and said that multiple times, that they're just not planned for Phase 4. even with this deal going through, don't expect them anytime soon. That doesn't mean that we might not see Easter eggs, but overall, this means that we're not going to see them, and that is also confirmed by Marvel recently. So, Deadpool will not appear in Spider-Man 3. Now, this is a rumor that started up last week, that Deadpool was going to be the first X-Man to be introduced into the MCU. And there was a series of questions as to how they would do this. Would they do X-Force, the actual supposed third movie that was going to exist? Will they introduce him in a solo outing just called Deadpool? Or will Spider-Man 3 feature Deadpool? If you've not been following, Spider-Man and Deadpool have an ongoing story, which is pretty much the zany antics of Deadpool with Spider-Man trying to stop them. So that rumor was going around stating that there is possibilities that Ryan Reynolds would reprise his role as Deadpool in Spider-Man 3. If that were to happen, oh my God, would that be the greatest movie in the goddamn MCU, even if it was written poorly. It would be like if you took Spider-Man and Deadpool, put their masks on a piece of poop that's on a stick, I would be like, it's the greatest thing ever, just because you put two of my favorite superheroes together. Like, it's like putting peanut butter and jelly, or a better analogy, like putting guacamole on your pizza with pineapple. Greatest pizza ever, right, guys? Anyway. Dan's shaking his head behind me. If you're wondering where the whiteboard is, Gary couldn't make it in today, so Dan's actually a camera guy today. Dan never gets to talk on camera. It's funny. Anyway, moving on to the next of these rumors, which my phone stopped spinning. Okay, Sony, because I was talking about this with some people on our Discord this morning. We have a pretty big community over there if you want to talk comic books, video games, movies, that kind of a thing. But they were discussing that that this is where they think that this rumor mill is not true. Sony wants Tom Hardy's Venom to appear in an MCU film. Now, if this said Kevin Feige wants Tom Hardy's Venom to appear in an MCU film, I would be like, this is all fake. Sony wanting Tom Hardy to appear in an MCU movie, I 100% believe. That does not mean that it's going to happen, but it means that Sony wants to be in the goddamn MCU finally, and even though they've got a pseudo deal to have Spider-Man, they don't have Venom in there, and if they could get Venom in there, then all of the Sony movies are now MCU related, and that's what they want, because they want them to get MCU money on a regular basis. So I believe Sony's trying for that. I really doubt Kevin Feige and the MCU crew are going to be like, yeah, let's take your super villain character and put him in our universe. Marvel is not planning on doing another big 10-year arc, but instead will focus on smaller arcs. Now, I've heard this multiple times from multiple sources. So, supposedly, there is no 10-year Thanos-style arc. Each phase is going to be an individual arc, and what they're going to do supposedly, and this is in our next situation, they're going to separate grounded heroes and cosmic heroes into two separate adventures. So they're each going to have their peaks of what is going on, which confirms what is right here, because this plays into the Dark Avengers situation. Norman Osborn is planned to be the next big bad for the grounded heroes. So what I'm expecting is in Spider-Man Far From Home, some kind of mention or reference to a Norman Osborn. And lastly, we have Marvel is looking to cast David Morrissey for a number of possible roles, thinking Captain Britain was the thought process on this one. I don't know about that because I don't know the actor, maybe Captain Britain, but without knowing the actor, I can't do very much. Now, the other thing that I got for these leaks, which kind of coincides with some of these supposed leaks. So here's a bunch more. I'm gonna go a little bit faster through these. This one I found on the Reddit Marvel Studios spoilers. And this one has actually been up for 8 days without being removed. The other one was on the main Marvel Studios Reddit, and it got removed in about 48 hours, okay? So, confirmed films so far. This lines up with the other one. Spider-Man Far From Home, The Eternals, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. Now that I think is cool if the prequel Black Widow movie is going to feature Hawkeye, allowing the two of them to do their secret agent stuff. Shang-Chi, the Master of Kung Fu. And then here's where, according to Dylan on our team, the names get a little bit weird, and I think that they maybe fill-in names. But Captain Marvel, Future Fights. Doctor Strange, Illuminati, and Black Panther, Kingdom Threatened. And then there's As Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 and Avengers Reassemble. So the three in the middle there, Future Fights, Illuminati, and Kingdom Threatened, they don't sound interesting to me. I do feel like those, if those are legit the names, they're standby names and they're just using them until they come up with something better. As Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, I feel like could be the title if they're going to feature Thor in even the slightest amount, or if they're going to find the Asgardians, maybe another ship of them floating out there or something along those lines. Asgardians of the Galaxy is something that the Marvel Comics has been really pushing recently, and they've been pushing a lot more Guardians of the Galaxy. So it's a very strong possibility that maybe we'll have Asgardians of the Galaxy with Thor, at least temporarily, with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and I could see them introducing a character like Angela along for the ride. because she's a part of the Asgardians of the Galaxy, and maybe we'll get the Thor frog. I mean, if this was 8 years ago, I'd be like, no way is the MCU going to bring in a talking animal potential mascot. But you know, we got a talking tree and a raccoon that I fell in love with. So the talking frog Thor guy, totally could see that happening. Moving on though, Avengers Endgame, the phase division of MCU, we work into 2 categories, urban and cosmic, like I just said, with the introduction of the multiverse, the Fantastic Four, and Dr. Destiny being the main links between these, okay? I could see them using the Fantastic Four for that. Now, I'm not a massive Fantastic Four fan, but if you don't know like what they're normally involved in, the Fantastic Four are normally deal with multiple dimensions, multiple realities. They go travel through space. The Fantastic Four at the earliest days of Marvel were used as a way to introduce other characters because they would go off and do crazy things and be basically a fish out of water all the time. So I could see them going that route very easily now that they have the Fantastic Four and just use them in that manner. The films will not always follow a chronological order. Some of the prequels, like Black Widow and the Hawkeye and the Eternals, will be flash forwards. Spider-Man Far From Home will introduce the multiverse and be the main arc of the urban category. Yes, I could totally see that, because if they're going to move forward with this, the great villain of the urban arc will be Norman Osborn. Definite until the end of the saga, and the great arcs of the new cycle will be Dark Avengers, Dark Reign, and Siege. So if this is where they're going with it, this all makes sense, because Norman Osborn is your big bad. Norman Osborn is going to somehow be elected to power within the MCU. Norman Osborn is going to create the Dark Avengers. It'll be a different version, probably. I could see like a US agent being the new Captain America and the black suited Spider-Man, but we'll have an MCU version since it can't be Venom. But you make your own version of the Dark Avengers, basically. You then go into Dark Reign, where the villains are basically in charge, and Siege is basically the end of that whole series where Norman Osborn now is in power, all the villains are in power, so Captain America has to lead a rebellion against them. Who will be our new character? Maybe Falcon as Captain America, because we're going to talk about it on the Comicstorian on Saturday, but Disney Plus has already come out and said that the Falcon, Winter Soldier, Scarlet Witch, Vision, they're going to be coming back into the movies. So they're going to be going back and forth between the show and the movie. No problem with that. As Guardians of the Galaxy 3 is set to be in the cosmic category, there's plans to introduce Beta Ray Bill, a High Evolutionary, and they'll also be introducing Galactus, who will be the main cosmic villain, as well as Norman Osborn on the urban level. So we'll have Galactus and Norman Osborn going on between the 2 universes. So we'll have 2 MCU arcs going on. I'm hoping that they don't flood their market with like 4 different movies a year. Maybe 1 core movie in each of those categories a year. I could see myself following that pretty easily. Skrulls will be the regular threat in the urban category, thanks to Captain Marvel, seeing how they can fade in and out. Secret Invasion arc will be the main story of that arc. Now that makes sense, like I said, because Norman Osborn comes into power by saving the day at the end of Secret Invasion, or at least we think he has, because Deadpool actually did it. Now, I actually think this is very true, because I was at Target yesterday, and there is a game currently being sold about Captain Marvel, and it's basically the Guess Who kind of a game, where you have to guess which of the individuals on your board is actually a Skrull. So if we're moving in the direction of like Skrulls can be anybody, and they're going to be hidden, and that's what you're basing your marketing around, I see this becoming what we're going to do. And what for the record, who approves these board games? Like, Captain Marvel in the Guess Who category. Does your Skrull have a wrinkly chin? Is he purple? I'm thinking you got Thanos. A totally different direction. I know Thanos isn't a Skrull. I'm cracking a joke. Stop typing angry responses to me, please. I know. Okay, they both got weird chins. Master of Kung Fu will be a departure from the usual CGI of science fiction. Instead, we're going to see them honor classic martial art films in the 60s and 70s. I've heard this rumor floating around before. I don't know where it came from, or if this is where it came from, but whatever. Spider-Man will have an important arc and be estimated to have 4 films instead of 3. But there's nothing guaranteed. Apparently, according to this rumor, they're building to the Sinister Six as we know. What they're trying to do is get A-list players like Michael Keaton and Jake Gyllenhaal to play all of the villains. The reason why we may not get a 4th movie is, can they juggle 6, we'll pretend my phone's a finger, 6 A-list actors as villains in this thing. That's gonna be and it's literally what this says. Can they juggle all of them? They're gonna try for that. So we might see hints at it, and we'll see what ends up happening. Apparently, Annihilus is going to be introduced at some point, and it will be the main villain of that stage. if you're doing Galactus, I mean, if you're breaking him into 3 separate arcs, I could see that. Galactus, Annihilus, that kind of a thing. Annihilus is a giant bug who basically eradicates things. It's the Annihilation Wave. We've done a little bit of it here at the Comicstorian channel. He's a really, really big baddie, but he's not very intelligent. He's just, think of like locusts in space. They just devour planets and move on, and that's kind of what Annihilus is. Doctor Strange Illuminati will feature Atlantis and Namor as the villain obsessed with destroying the surface. That I believe, because the director, or someone involved in the movie, I believe it was the director, tweeted out a comic panel featuring Doctor Strange fighting Namor. So we've already had that rumor floating around. Black Panther Kingdom Threatened will introduce Doctor Doom, who will probably try to dominate Wakanda alongside Namor in that film. So Namor is going to bounce between these movies, maybe pulling off like a Hulk arc where he's getting his story, but it's between different movies and stuff like that. According to this, there's no plans to bring in Miles Morales because with how well Into the Spider-Verse did, Sony has no plans on letting him go. The Fantastic Four will feature Reed Richards, already empowered, coming in from a different universe, uniting the group that we know, uniting his group to get back to his universe. The Negative Zone and Kang the Conqueror will be introduced in that arc. I think this would be the best way to do the Fantastic Four. We've had two origin movies already, and they're not even that interesting. So, Captain Marvel Future Fights will try to explain parallel realities and alternate universes. Ronan may reappear in this movie as the prequel. Kevin Feige said they have big plans for Captain Marvel and they're going to market it just as Iron Man was marketed. Totally get that. Works for me. The last films of each phase will be the films, the Avengers, and they'll unite the 2 categories into the big arc, Avengers Reassemble. So your Cosmic and your Urban are going to come together. Avengers Reassemble is going to be the big finale. Maybe that'll be Doctor Doom or the Norman Osborn thing or Galactus or maybe something we don't even know about yet. And apparently the poster of this on the spoilers thread says that this came from a 4chan post and he's translating from Brazil. He's translating as best he can. He's from Brazil. So that's everything that I could find that either confirmed fan theories, seems to have some kind of a credible source behind it, or just in general sounded really cool. And I wanted to make this video to be like, hey, these are the Marvel Phase 4 leaks, because yes, they're the leaks, but until I see Marvel say something, I don't take these like with truth. But you guys constantly ask me, what are my opinions on Deadpool joining Spider-Man 3 or Namor going to Doctor Strange? So I'm telling you right now, this is what I think of each of these. If each of these were to happen, that would be very epic. I would love to see the Dark Reign, the Dark Avengers, and Siege storyline play out in Galactus and Doctor Doom and Namor. This Phase 4 and onward just sounds incredible, okay? It really does, if this is the truth. Now, we have no confirmations at this point, other than Black Widow has started filming in Norway as of like 2 days ago, and Spider-Man obviously introduces the multiverse. That's all we really have at this point. So what do you think about these leaks and these rumors? I can't even link, I'll link to the one that's still up, the other one's down already. But I will link these down below. Let me know what you guys think of these in the comments. And don't forget to join us for Comics Experiment on Saturday. We're going to be talking about the Disney Plus stuff that's coming out and all that stuff that they've talked about there. We got a crazy amount of stuff happening, guys. And please consider subscribing to the Comicstorian channel. These rants and these discussions and me on video like this were supposed to just be 3 quick videos during the Endgame period. But I have so much fun just letting me ramble off script. This is fun. I have a blast with this. So I want to keep doing these. So let me know any other topics you want to go. Also, if you found other leaks, link them down below. If we get enough, we'll make another video. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time right here. Oh, hold on. And Shiva, our new cat, even though she doesn't want to be held because I'm holding her weird, says goodbye. Ow, she clawed me.